And I'll call your case. We're taking up CR 2023-6117. We're joined by Counsel Neal and Thomas. We're calendared for sentencing as we have been in the past. So, as we know, there have been some other, I'll let counsel finish.
I'm sorry.
I'll continue. As I indicated, we've been calendared in the past for sentencing, and there have been additional moving parts. We recognize that Bingham County conducted their sentencing, and there was an additional Bonneville County case that was slowing things down. So I invite counsel to share with me how you would like to proceed today. Let us begin. Shall I begin with the defense, Mr. Thomas, or would you rather hear the state's position?
We're fine hearing the state's position first.
Okay, let's hear the state's position.
All right, so we're kind of in an unusual situation. So typically when we enter into a plea agreement, the normal language and the language that is contained in this plea agreement is that if the conditions change, then we would be dismissed from having to follow the recommendations of the agreement. However, the plea agreement was actually entered into, I think, before this case. This case predates it, but before it was filed, I think is what happened. So there's a pending Bonneville County case. I also believe that there may be a Madison County case, which is also pending. What Mr. Yantis is hoping to accomplish, I think, is that he can follow through with the outcome from Bingham County, but we're in a situation where we have additional counts and we want a consequence for that. And so that may mean that the state's recommendation on the new charge, which did go to a contested preliminary hearing, would require that a recommendation be something besides probation. But there's also a problem-solving court which is involved that he has been accepted into, which may be an appropriate outcome.
Can I ask which problem-solving court and when that developed?
I think it's the mental health court in Bingham County.
Mental health court in Bingham County, and was that a new acceptance following the sentence out of Bingham County, or was that what was pronounced at your sentencing in Bingham County?
There's a new sentence, a new acceptance.
Okay, a new acceptance. And does the record reflect a tracking log in our case on that? Probably not.
No.
Okay. And so you're telling me Bingham County Mental Health Court?
Yes.
Who presides over that?
I'm not
Thompson,
sure.
I think, Judge Thompson.
Okay. I don't hear a lot about the Bingham County Mental Health Court. I know Judge Pickett presides over the Bingham County Drug Court, but I guess I wasn't aware that they had a specific mental health court in Bingham County. Do you remember receiving a acceptance log or a tracking log?
I do not, but I've also not been in Bingham for a while. They had me down there.
Who informed you that you were admitted?
I believe it was my attorney down there.
Uh-huh.
He told me that I could be accepted to it. So
Could be or was?
I don't know the final outcome of everything. Right?
Sure. And who's that counsel?
That was Jeremy Ferris.
Ferris, okay.
So I guess I don't know that he was, I guess I was just kind of going on the assumption that I'm hearing these other things, and I thought he was in mental health court. We were just waiting to resolve this case, and then another case popped up here.
And we have 3 grand thefts that appear pending up in Madison County.
Sir, do you have an update on my frustration, and likely equals your frustration, because I think we've been aware of these things. But, and I'm sure I've asked this question, but as we sit here today, do you have an update on what's happening in Madison County?
Your Honor, I don't. We keep on saying, you know, we're gonna try to talk to them and try to work something out. And, you know, month to month to month, just nothing gets worked out. And they said they're not willing to budge until I'm either bonded out of that warrant or get released for transport up to there. So
Yeah, they have a warrant outstanding with no.
yeah,
no
I haven't
date.
even been
Okay.
arraigned on it, and they're not.
So these are new charges in Madison County to be dealt with in district court. When I say new, it's relative. You haven't been in district court yet. It's not a probation case or anything like that.
No, it's yes, Your Honor.
New allegations?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Well-
as the court is well aware, the way we try to work these out is to get everybody on the same page. And we, on this particular case, the CR 1023-6117, we had worked with Bingham County to get their case on our plea agreement. So we were working through that, and then it turns out there's another case here that came up after this agreement was signed. And it looks like there's another case in Madison County that didn't get resolved either, so.
Well, so I don't control the Madison County case. What I do control is the other Bonneville County case. And to the extent that I do, what would be the party's suggestion for sentencing on the older matter that's hopefully new and different from what we heard last time we were together? And I would say, again, I've never heard of a Bingham County mental health court. Has anyone?
I didn't even know it was a thing, but my attorney down there said I could.
Yeah, and it's possible that there is such a thing. Sometimes courts do their own review hearings, and maybe there is something that I'm unfamiliar with, but I thought I had my awareness of every treatment court in the district. But all right, I just want to share that because I don't want you to have.
Can Madam Clerk perhaps see what the outcome is?
There could also possibly have been a misunderstanding. We should have been talking about Bonneville.
Bonneville Mental Health Court.
There could be a misunderstanding. I'm not.
We do have a Bonneville County Mental Health Court. Madam Clerk, do you see anything that it's unlikely, but the state just invited you to take a look?
So in his Bingham case, I was just looking at his judgment. But I don't see anything that states.
It's just straight probation.
And I apologize, part of this was because I was out of the area last week, and so somebody was covering for me. He did, I can't remember if it was arraignment or a status on the new charge that came up for Monday, but I just wasn't in a position to be able to get that resolved, so.
Madam Clerk, can you share that case number that was handled on Monday, and we'll look it up? Or you could just confirm that was that matter set for trial? I think
Yeah,
I think it was set for jury trial, given the state's representative at the time and no mutual understanding of a joint resolution. So we know that the newer Bonneville County case is set for trial, so we're not losing track of that case. The question is, does that involve some resolution combining what you appeared on sentencing for today? And that's up to the attorneys what their wish is, and you as well.
what I'm seeing on the Bingham County case is that there was a June probation violation, revoking the withheld judgment, and then continued him on probation for 2.5 years. And that's all I see is what has happened in that particular case that I don't see a problem solving in court.
And I think where we stand today, Your Honor, is that Mr. Yantis has been sitting in jail for quite a while. He's prepared to go forward. The state, I think the state's kind of frustrated with the fact that they can't make a recommendation other than probation based on the plea agreement and based on the fact that these other cases may have happened before but were filed after the plea agreement was signed, and so he's not in violation of the agreement. And so I think that's kind of where we're at, where the state's required to recommend pursuant to the plea agreement probation, but these new cases, who knows what the state's gonna do.
All right, so what I'm hearing, and we really just have two options, is to proceed with sentencing on the matter that's ripe for sentencing today, or delay sentencing to attempt, as we have, I think, in the past to some degree, include the newer Bonneville County case for resolution, so you're sentenced once, and potentially even the Madison County matters. So those are our two options. I'll give you a minute with counsel. I kind of...
He's already told me
Okay.
he's prepared to go forward and he wants to.
Your Honor, with kind of where we sit right now, I've been calling, tried to keep in contact with John's office. Has been awesome. But I believe, I called 8 times last week, and they tried to get us to continue our status conference. They said that if we did, we'd have a plea agreement ready for today. I've called every day since then, and there has been nothing. So I believe it's just...
Well, let's do this then. I'll step off the bench and allow the parties to determine, because we've known of this case in Bonneville County for some time. And so I think that rather than denying a request to continue, let me at least invite the parties to converse, knowing the facts of the case, to see if that could somehow include a recommendation or
Sure.
a resolution and a plea on the other. If not, then I'll hear argument on whether we should sentence today or not, but I'm inclined.
Yeah, ultimately, we're willing to make the recommendation, but clearly, the question is consequences for additional behavior and conduct. So I just do not believe there's going to be an option where there's going to be probation for all of these cases, because that would deny that we're going to have additional consequences. So absent some additional consequences for the additional crimes that go beyond the probation that was issued in Bingham County, or that would be issued in 6117, I don't foresee us getting a resolution that would involve the additional charge that was filed, or the Madison County matters for that matter.
Your Honor, with that being said, I understand the state's argument on that, but I also have had very little time to try to hire counsel in my Madison case. I'm not out currently working a job and whatnot. I do have, I've talked to Browning a little bit, and he said that he believes that we could get a probation recommendation in Madison.
I don't think it's wise to share communications that you've had with counsel, so
Right.
lean into your counsel's ear and share with him, you think, any relevant information that would be helpful for me. Am I interpreting both counsel's position that a 5 to 10 minute conversation between counsel is not going to be fruitful?
I don't think so. I think the state is stuck with their representation on the plea agreement, and it's frustrating, and I understand the frustration.
Anything else, Mr. Neal?
No.
Okay, so I understand that there are other matters. My role will be to sentence you on what is before the court. I want you to know, you'll hear me say that now, and you'll hear me say that in a few moments. We recognize that there are allegations, that's what they are allegations both in Bonneville and Madison County. But given the delays, I think we better proceed on sentencing on this case today. Are there going to be any witnesses today?
Not from the defense.
Not from the state, Your Honor.
All right. Then let's take argument. As typical, we will invite the state to present its sentencing recommendation. Then we'll turn to the defense and enable you, sir, to make any statements that you wish, okay? history.
Yeah, Your Honor, at the time of the plea agreement, then we identified that there were some checks that had been written, and based on those insufficient fund checks, the other count that was grant theft by false promise was dismissed. And then there was also a charge based on entering a building with the intent to commit that theft, which was the count one, which was the, oh, I'm sorry. Let me make sure I've got the right.
I think it's count 3.
pieces here. So in 6117, it was count 1 burglary and count 2 grand theft were dismissed based on the theory that was created there, and then there would be a sentencing on the insufficient checks, the bad checks. And that was the reason for the recommendation for probation based on that particular case, which was the one that is the only case that's pending before the court. So based on the limited circumstances there, then the court, I mean, the state is going to recommend probation in compliance with that plea agreement, and then we'll leave the argument at that, Judge.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. This case revolves around Mr. Yantis. He owned a construction company of his own. He had taken on some pretty big contracts, was being paid on those contracts, and then for whatever reason he had to pull out of one of the contracts, one of the large paying contracts. Prior to doing that, he had purchased these vehicles thinking that the money was going to be in there either the next day or a couple days from when he did it. The money didn't come through. He ended up not taking on those contracts. I think there's a mental health component here that needs to be addressed with Mr. Yantis. I don't think it's just, a misunderstanding of, hey, I thought I was going to write a check and I didn't. I think that this is possibly some bipolar type behavior where he becomes manic, and he went out and bought several vehicles and a side-by-side four-wheeler type vehicle, and then just couldn't pay for them, and so he had to take everything back. These people were kind of upset because they had sold these vehicles and then had to get them back, and so I don't think that Mr. Yantis was necessarily doing this maliciously or trying to skate on having to pay for these vehicles. I think that it was just, I think that there's something that can be addressed while he's on probation as far as mental health goes. I think he has some mental health issues that need to be addressed, and learn some coping skills on how to do that. I certainly think all this can be done on probation. I realize that the state probably would not have made this agreement had they known all the other issues that Mr. Yantis had in other counties and in other, even in this county. But, it is what it is, and this is very rare that this type of situation comes up. And so we would just ask the court to follow through with the plea agreement, with the recommendations of the parties, where he's put on probation. Hopefully we can get him some mental health help, because I think that's kind of the root of the problem. He does need to get it back out and get out and start working. He's very skilled. He's a good construction contractor. He's got a lot of jobs out there that he can do. He does, as he said, have a baby on the way. He's told me that a number of times, and that was one of his driving forces of getting out and getting back to work, was that he has people to provide for, and that's very admirable. I think that Mr. Yantis is trying to be a fine, upstanding citizen, and I think that sometimes, his mental health gets in the way, and situations kind of turn upside down. Things that he wasn't expecting to happen, and and it led him into this particular situation. He has a very low LSI. His LSI is a 7, which is extremely low. According to, and we're all going off of the Bingham County PSI, and so, which was done right around this time period that this case happened. So, but I think he's amenable to probation. I think that if the court puts him on probation, he'll do well, and I think that the probation officer will be able to at least look into the mental health issues that may be present there. That'll be somebody who can delve a little bit deeper into his possible issues and help him get back on the right track. That's what they're there for. That's what they do. And they do a great job at it. And so I think that at the end of the day, Mr. Yantis is going to be a success story for us. As I said earlier, he's a very hard worker. He's a very skilled contractor. And I think that he can get back on his feet and get back on the right path. I think this will be a stumbling block for Mr. Yantis. So as far as that, we'd ask for probation. As far as an underlying sentence, we leave that to the discretion of the court.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Yantis, are you interested in making any statement?
No, Your Honor, I agree with what my attorney said. There was no malicious intent in the crimes committed in this case. I understand that, you know, it kind of took a different route, but like you said, there was no destructive intent. It was, you know, like you said, the contracts were coming through. One of them was supposed to pay out the next day. I told the power sports company that I bought the ATV from that the check needed to be, you know, they need to wait a couple days to cash the check, and they were okay with that. And then I had to back out of one of the contracts due to some, you know, errors in it, and I obviously didn't have the funds after that. And that being said, you know, the equipment was returned in, you know, perfect condition, and, you know, I understand my mistakes there. So, you know, with that, I would ask for probation, and I believe my counsel's correct to that.
Thank you. Counsel, 2 questions related to the victims of this case. Is there restitution that is known on this matter? And 2, I assume that we were calendared for sentencing today, that there wouldn't be any impact statement or anything like that.
No impact statement. I think in this particular case, the items were returned.
They were, Judge. Let's leave restitution open for 30 days. It's hard to say if they were able to sell them for new or used or what they had to do. I think that counsel will be able to come up with that and hopefully hash that out.
Okay. And thank you for that. How much time, sir, do you think you've been in custody on this matter?
On this matter, well, I was served this matter for the first time in Bingham. I was arraigned on it, so counting that, it'd be 6 months. So,
Okay.
that's where we're at right now.
And it's fair to say you've come before the court for release before, to which this court denied release.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And so all of that credit should be given towards you. All right, with your statement that you're satisfied with the representation that counsel has provided you, let me now walk you through the court sentence. There are 4 objectives that I seek to satisfy, and they include protection of society, deterrence to you and to others, rehabilitation and punishment for the wrongdoing, and there are a number of things that can be characterized into positive and redeeming qualities as it relates to those 4 objectives, and there are those that fall into the category of being aggravated. And in your set of circumstances, there are things that fall both in the redeeming and the aggravation. I do want you to know, once again, and I state for the record, that I am not considering or sentencing you for any of the Madison County matters. Those are not a part of this court's consideration or jurisdiction. We recognize that the court is relying upon the Bingham County pre-sentence report. The parties asked the court to consider that. It makes sense. Did you have a point to make, sir?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to say this is a Bonneville PSI.
Okay.
Bingham went off of Bonneville's.
Very
PSI.
well.
Rona,
The PSI that this court is looking at, and as part of this record, is an 11-14-23 that says Bingham.
That's the one we have.
Yeah, so were you misunderstood, sir, or mistaken?
I did add Bonneville probation.
I'm sure, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was Bonneville. I apologize if that was a misunderstanding.
So what that means, and I don't see any indication from your sentencing judge in Bingham County, which would have been Judge Simpson, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And typically there's notations for clarifications or corrections, and I want to step back and ensure that you've reviewed that PSI, that you're comfortable in allowing the court to rely upon the contents of that PSI, and that there aren't any substantive changes or corrections you would like me to make.
Nothing at all, sir.
Okay. And what's important about that Bingham County PSI is it provides the law enforcement version of the Bingham County matter. In order for this court to appreciate what occurred in Bonneville, I have the ability to look at the affidavit of probable cause and then listen to the arguments of the state and the defense, which I have done. But I just call your attention that it's the Bingham County PSI that the court has before him. As I stated, and I'll reiterate, I'm not considering even the other Bonneville County matter. You're entitled to due process associated with that, and the state has charged the matter, and it will run its own course. Today, as I look at the sentencing outcome, and also you should understand that the court is permitted to consider the Bingham County PSI and the Bingham County facts. It's clear that the court has the ability to consider all things related to previously convicted charges, and that's what I'm doing in this case. The statement that there was no malicious intent, I don't know that the court accepts that entirely. Your operation appeared to be loose, and it was a financial one in which there were obligations, I think, coming and going, your expectation that you would be paid and you would rely upon that. You simply were unable to perform under this case. And the real question is, at what point did you come to that awareness that you would not be able to perform and continue to operate in this loose way? This court has sentenced individuals on theft cases a number of times, and I recognize that this is not a violent offense, but I will share, Mr. Yantis, that oftentimes on property crimes, it still very much affects the victims and their livelihood and their ability to cover their financial obligations, and it's incredibly disruptive to their lives. And this court has sentenced individuals meeting the threshold for felony counts all the way to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this court believes that while you received probation in the Bingham County matter, and I will note for the party's remembrance, as I compare the date of incidences, that the Bingham County matter was April the 13th of 23, okay? And the Bonneville County matter is charged on the dates between March the 28th and April 1st, okay? And so that, in this court's mind, is relevant in the sense of what was happening in both counties at the same time. You just simply appeared in front of Judge Simpson before you did this court. This court is going to retain jurisdiction on your matter with an underlying sentence of 2.5 years fixed with 3.5 years indeterminate for a unified sentence of 6 years. The court will impose a $1,000 fine, and court costs in the Victims Relief Fund are standard. We will permit the state to submit restitution on this count within 30 days. Now, practically speaking, what this means is that I doubt that you will be transported to begin your retained jurisdiction until these other matters are resolved. If the parties present in this court alternatives related to the newly charged matter, then I would certainly consider it. There was a discussion today regarding mental health court. I debated between sentencing you to mental health court as a condition of probation. I'm not necessarily opposed to that if that is what takes place and you are admitted. I just don't believe that there's a Bingham County mental health court. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and that's what Judge Simpson intended. And then, obviously, the Madison County will run its course. Counsel, do you understand the view?
Yes, sir.
And Madam Clerk, when do we come back together again for the other Bonneville County matter? I think it's the pretrial conference.
I'm showing November 4th for the pretrial conference.
All right. So, sir, that gives you until November the 4th to work on any of these other matters that are charged for the pretrial conference. But I can call that case up at the convenience of the parties at any time. Do you have any questions for me?
I think we're good, Judge.
Okay, we'll see you earlier or on November 4th, and your continued custody in the Bonneville County detention facility. So thank you. You may be excused.